Welcome back. So not too long ago, Daniel Fago had requested a video on how I deal with Varroa mites. Timing wasn't right at that point, so I had to put it off until now. It's now August 17th, and I plan on going out tomorrow to treat my hives, probably early in the morning. This video is going to be pretty detailed, and it's going to be on the longer side. So try to bear with me. There's just a lot of detail that needs to be covered. So first, I think it's very important to know how mites affect our bees. Mites don't directly kill our bees and cause the colony loss. It's the viruses that they transmit to the bees that kill them and create the colony collapse. Your normal in-season bees, your spring and summer bees, have a life expectancy of, we'll call it a few weeks to several weeks. We read anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. They're pretty short-lived. They do a lot of work in that short amount of time, and then they die. But you're in the main brood rearing season where that queen is just constantly replacing those losses and then some to build those colonies and replace what dies. Winter bees, on the other hand, which start being produced in very late summer, have a life expectancy of a few to several months. Those bees need to survive from the time brood rearing stops until it resumes again. And they have to maintain that colony population for that time period. If your bees are sick with viruses that were transmitted from mites, they're not going to survive long enough to sustain that colony until brood rearing resumes in very late winter, approaching spring. The two types of treatments that I use are Formic Pro and oxalic acid. We will refer to Formic Pro as a knockdown treatment and oxalic acid as a cleanup round of treatment. Formic Pro is approved to be used with supers on, and it has been for quite some time. Another advantage to Formic Pro is it kills mites and is effective underneath brood cappings. I also like Formic Pro because it's pretty easy to administer. It's a one and done treatment. It could be a two and done. It depends because there's two treatment options that you would decide that you're going to use. I choose the one treatment option for 14 days. Don't hold me to the specifics because I read the instructions every year before I treat. That's how important it is to follow Formic instructions to a T. So you administer your Formic, you have your honey supers on because it's, end of summer, and it's not unlikely to have your supers on. You know the queen is brooding up for the winter population. That makes Formic Pro a perfect candidate for my treatment regimen. The only problem is when you finish your Formic Pro treatment after 14 or 20 days, whichever regimen you choose, there's still quite some fly days, and it's still end of summer and autumn, and those bees are still going to be leaving, foraging, cleansing flights, and they very well may come into contact with other colonies that have mites. And they're going to be vulnerable to that, and then they're going to bring it back to the hive and start that whole cycle all over again. This is why we do a cleanup round of oxalic acid. I do that around, I used to say Thanksgiving. I always try to time things out where it falls near a holiday or an event. And I used to choose Thanksgiving. However, I did push that back a little bit because lately in the past several seasons, those fall season has kind of extends a little bit and it stays a little warmer than it normally has. So I find myself pushing my treatments out to maybe early December. Oxalic acid has only recently been approved by the FDA to be used with supers, and it needs to be done so with very strict guidelines. You may not be comfortable with something that has just been approved and has that strict of guidelines. So you may not want to use it with your supers on. This time of year that we do cleanup rounds, late November, early December, you're not going to have honey supers on the hive anyway. So that works itself out. Oxalic acid also does not kill mites underneath the brood cappings. Again, this works out because this is the time of year when your hive is broodless or close to it. Because, you're administering that, again, end of November, beginning of December. She's already shut down or close to it for the majority of winter. I just think that these two treatments integrate so well together that I can't recommend it enough. And I think if you follow these, treatment regimens and you follow the instructions of Formic, you should have the same positive results that I have. I do want to talk about some controversy that surrounds formic acid treatments. You may have already gone onto some forums and some groups and asked questions or did some research on Formic. And I'm sure you've come across some people that said, absolutely do not use Formic Pro. It will kill your queens. It does more harm than good. I hear all of these. And after 13 years of using it, I haven't found any of that. It doesn't kill queens. I haven't found that at all. I think if you don't follow the directions to a T, you may run into problems. I also believe, and my mentor who taught me bees prepped me for this to look out for it. You have to remember, bees are very focused on pheromones as their communication and decision making. And Formic Pro is such a strong fumigating treatment that we have to imagine that it disrupts the pheromones of the hive. And when bees can't sense brood or the queen's pheromones, they may view that hive as queenless. And I was told to be careful. And when you finish your Formic Pro treatments, at the time it was Mite Away Quick Strips, they changed their formula. When your treatment is done, inspect your hives and just make sure you're queen right, but don't be shocked if you see some emergency queen cells. Because the theory is that the pheromones got disrupted so much that the colony actually thought they were queenless when they were not. And of course, I think a lot of people that may not be aware of this or have been warned about this probably see queen cells and go, oh my God, my hive's queenless. Close it back up, let them do their thing. That thought is in their head now. I was prepared and told, if you see those queen cells, also look for eggs or young larvae. So keep in mind, if you have capped queen cells, they were there for 16 days, or nearing capped queen cells. But if you have eggs and almost capped queen cells, that math is not going to add up. Eggs are 3 days old max, because after 3.5, 4 days, the eggs hatch into young larvae. So if you have emergency cells and eggs in your hive, it's not queenless. You've had a queen at least 3 days ago. So you would go ahead and tear out all of those queen cells. You only destroy all queen cells when you have presence of eggs or young larvae. Because if your hive truly is queenless and there's no eggs or young larvae, you have now just made it hopelessly queenless. This has not happened to me often where I found these emergency queen cells. I don't want you to think that it happens. I'm going to say it's only happened a very small handful of times over a decade that I've been, using Formic. So I wouldn't say go in there expecting it. But if you do happen to find emergency cells after your treatment window is over, look for eggs. If you have eggs, get rid of those queen cells and close up your hive and let them go back to doing what they do. It is important that you all read the instructions that come with the Formic Pro in detail, word for word, read it through. That may also be why people experience queen loss as well. We don't know if they're following those directions to a T. We don't know if they're like, it's 86 degrees out, I'm good. So you have to follow those directions. I mean, read it with a magnifying glass if you have to. Also, there's some safety precaution. You don't want to touch it with your hands, and you certainly don't want to get a good whiff of it. It will whip your head around very violently. So make sure that's going to be up to you to go over all the safety precautions and the exact treatment criteria. Today is treatment day. I chose today because the weather was really hot for the past week or so, and with Formic, it's very temperature sensitive. I misspoke in the video leading up to this footage, and I said that it needs to be 84 degrees or less. It's actually 85 degrees or less. That's why I don't like telling you guys the specifics of these, because you only do this once a year, and you forget the details. So as I pointed out in the intro video, it's really important that you read the instructions. I read them every year. I've been using Formic for well over a decade now, and I still read the instructions because it's that finicky and very, very strict guidelines to follow when using this stuff. So all we're going to do, since it's a double deep, we're going to split the box. My back is feeling a little, far from 20 years old. It's feeling more like a 52-year-old back. So on a good day, I would just pick both of these up, but not today. It's supposed to be like very low 80s, upper 70s, and overcast pretty much all week. So it's a perfect time to treat with Formic. I just smoke the bees down, scrape off any burr comb because the pads are going to have to sit up here. So your Formic is going to come in a box like this. Most of the time it comes like this. I ordered a new batch and it came in just a foil pack, which is this. But I've always ordered it and it came with this pack in here. This is sealable and it's pretty thick plastic. Don't be afraid of Formic, but it is pretty strong stuff, so you can see precautions that are necessary. And then inside, it gets a little confusing. This is 2 pads, but 2 pads is 1 dose. So we're going to open her up. I can see that they're nice and moist. So these are the ones that were left over from last year, and I am totally comfortable using these. You don't want to breathe this stuff in. Like I mentioned before, it'll turn your head right quick. So I'm just trying to get the bees down. This might seem like an excessive amount of smoke, but I don't want to crush bees under the pads if I don't have to. And everything I'm doing right here, they show you in the instructions. And this is what it should look like. I kind of go like a frame and a half in, 3 inches or so from the short side. Lay it down like that. So it's just kind of staggered. The idea is that the brood nest is kind of in the center and it'll concentrate all those vapors straight up. And that's it. That's all it takes to administer Formic Pro. And we put this guy back on. And as previously mentioned, it's approved for use with supers. Now what's going to happen here is we're just going to let this thing sit. I choose the 14-day option, obviously, because I put 2 pads in. There's a 10-day option where you do 1 pad for 10 days, and then the second pad goes in for another 10 days. So it's a 20-day total treatment. I choose the 14-day treatment, just do the 2 pads in, and 1 time, 1 visit out, and it's done. I won't even come out to these bees for 14 days. Thanks for watching, and I hope this video was very helpful. I'll catch you next time.